watch and to appreciate. And so please join me in welcoming to the platform today, Billie Tucker.
This is a big deal. I didn't even realize what I just said. It is a big deal. This sign behind me, ladies and gentlemen, I have watched that sign with many very famous people stand in front of it on TV, on the internet, going to Heritage, and watching all of these really cool people that we admire stand in front of this sign, and I'm here. It's a big deal. I want to tell you that I've worked with CEOs, as Mr. Mee said, for about 25 years, and I love CEOs. And I do not like our president who demonizes the people that make this country work. If you're a CEO out there today, thank you for putting your name on the line. Thank you very much for what you do to employ our American citizens so that they can buy houses, they can send their kids to school, they can clothe them and feed them. And you're the one that goes home at night and you worry about how you're going to make ends meet yourself and how you're going to make payroll. And to be demonized by our administration is a travesty in this country. So the reason I got involved, I'll tell you why I got involved in this Tea Party movement. I've never been involved. I was a registered Republican all my life. When I turned 18, my high school sweetheart and I went down and registered to vote. My dad was a Democrat. I thought he was going to throw me out of the house when I came home and said, "I'm a registered Republican, Dad." But the reality was, way back then, that was a Republican, what my dad was. And everything's gotten a little bit mixed up in our country. So my husband and I registered together, my high school sweetheart. I married my high school sweetheart. I've been married to him for 35 years. I have a daughter, Sarah, who will turn 30 very soon, and a son, Evan, who's 29. They're both married. I have a granddaughter, 3 years old, and another one, 9 months old. And in 2008, September of 2008, I came home from meeting with a client who was going through some tough times, and I was thinking about him and where we were in our country. And I walked into our living room. My 85-year-old mother-in-law lives with us, and she said, "There's a big announcement coming." And I was pretty exhausted. I said, "Really?" She said, "John McCain, something about John McCain." And I put my stuff down. I came back in the living room, and I sat with her. And John McCain was there standing in front of the TV and announcing that he was going back to Washington and suspending his campaign. And as a person that's worked with leaders and CEOs, I was pretty stunned by that. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew it was big. And then a few hours later, I saw President Bush stand before the American people and tell us that we were in a lot of trouble, people. We were in a lot of trouble. And then I saw candidate Obama sitting there very smug. And all of that, I looked at that, and remember, I've worked with CEOs all my life, and I know them pretty well. And what I couldn't figure out was these three men, and I didn't feel like I had a leader. And I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that we were bankrupt and our country was in trouble. And that was my defining moment when patriotism showed up in my home. Because I'd been busy raising my children, making a career, and I have great kids. I raised great kids, you know. I invested in them, sent them to private Christian school. You know, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I was the PTA mom. I was the soccer mom. I've been married to my husband all these years. We did all the right things, and then all of a sudden I wake up and my country is in so much trouble, and it's affecting me, and it's affecting all these CEOs that I work with, and it's affecting my kids and their future. And I got to tell you, when they say, "Well, you're a bunch of angry people," well, wouldn't that make you angry? So something happened inside of me. For 4 months, all I did was wake up at 4 a.m. every day. There was an awakening that was happening. I couldn't sleep past 4 a.m. And I'd get up and I'd put a pot of coffee on, and I'd go to the internet, which is a great thing, and it will not be taken from us. And I sat there and I researched, and Heritage was one of the places that I went to. And I'm going to tell you the truth. You may not like this, but most of the Tea Party activists will tell you this. Well, a lot of us didn't know about Heritage because we were busy. We didn't need you then. We need you now. Keep it up. So I would investigate and research and try to figure out what was going on. And the things that I was finding out was scary. And I was mad, and I was upset, and I didn't know what to do with it. So what was happening was my husband would come home, and I'd get home before him because I'm an independent consultant, and I could. And he'd walk in, and I was just sitting at the computer, and I'd say, guess what I found out today, you know? And my husband of 35 years is like, what's going on? And I know he was worried because I was worried about me. So here we are, and went on for 4 months, and Rick Santelli. It was the Rick Santelli. He has no idea, you know. See, this is what, I'm a woman of faith. I really believe that there's no coincidence. And everything that's happened in my life has always been because somebody else has shown up at the right time. And Rick Santelli showed up at the right time. And I was there. And I was not there, but I was in my office at home. And there he stood, screaming and yelling. And all of a sudden, there I was all by myself, jumping up and down, saying, yes, somebody like me. But he had a TV and I didn't. So it was really cool. I got a phone call from a woman who's pretty big in the Republican Party. She's just a friend of mine. I hadn't even been involved in the Republican Party. Put a sign out in my yard and a sticker on my car. And I'd go in and I'd vote. That was what I did. And I'm not very different than most people out there. So what happened? She calls me. She says, we're going to have a tea party. We are. Yay. What do we do? And she said, I don't know. We'll figure it out. So in 24 hours notice, the tea party, the first one was held at the Jacksonville Landing. 75 people showed up. I couldn't go because I had to facilitate a board that day. And I was so upset because I finally felt like I was going to have a place to go and use all this pent-up energy that I had had from those 4 months. But then she called and she said, we're going to have a really big one on April 15th. Will you help us? And I said, absolutely, I will. So I got together with them. Never been an activist before. The worst thing I ever did was, run soccer mom off of a soccer field one time. That was it. Because she was hurting my kid. But here's the thing. We're a bunch of moms in this movement, and they're hurting our country. And we're going to do the same thing. Don't you go messing with the mamas. So we get together and we decide we're going to have a tea party on April 15th last year. And we did it all through the internet. We just sent out emails, said, hey, show up at the Jacksonville Landing, April the 15th, and we're going to have a tea party. There were 6 of us that put it together. We thought maybe we could get 500 people there. That day we borrowed all kinds of bunting. We borrowed a flag. We didn't have anything. Everything was borrowed. We threw the stuff together and we asked some people to talk, and 5,000 people showed up. And then I got scared because I didn't know what to do with them after that. Because all of them kept coming up to us, what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. Heck, we just put on a party, But I knew that we had to do something. So the First Coast Tea Party in Jacksonville, Florida, since April 15th of last year until April 15th of this year, last week we had 7,000 show up. The movement is growing, and don't let anybody tell you it's not. So 2,000 more people showed up. But this past year, what we've been doing is we've been working on a business plan. That's what I do. Sorry. And I didn't know that in the grassroots movement you weren't supposed to do it, but we did. So that's where they don't know how to deal with us, because we're getting organized. We actually have set up groups inside of our tea party. Those groups are set up because people would come and say, I want to do something. I said, okay, what do you do? Well, I'm an artist. Okay, we'll set up a group called the Patriots Palette. So we get all these artists together and they do stuff. We have another group, research group. This is the best one for you guys, Heritage. We had people show up that are introverts, but they're really upset. I'm an extrovert. What am I going to do with 50 introverts that are upset? It doesn't work. So I said, well, you can hold signs and you can yell and scream. No. Okay, well, how about this? Why don't you research? Okay, we can do that. So we've got 50 people sitting in Jacksonville, Florida, researching. And I want to coordinate. I want to collaborate. This is what we want to do in our business plan. In our business plan, we have all these organizations that we've targeted. You're one of them. Because you got a bunch of people researching. I got 50 of them researching. We need to get them all together. We need to figure out what we can do together. They're finding stuff out. You got stuff that you're finding out. We need to collaborate. So part of our business plan is you guys have been ahead of the game. We've been out here just doing our thing at home. And we've got to learn how to work together and take our country back. We've got to do this. Liberty Central is another organization that we're working with, and Jenny Thomas is here today. I'm so excited that the First Coast Tea Party is going to be doing some work with Liberty Central. If they've got the name Liberty Central in it, the Tea Party movement's definitely going to be involved. So it's collaboration everywhere. We've got to find these organizations, you guys that have been out here forging ahead of us. What we can bring to you are people that are mobilizing. People that are wanting to do things. They want to get involved in their citizenship again. People are carrying constitutions in their cars. I hadn't picked it up since I left high school. I know, it's so cool. I mean, people are saying, well, the Constitution says. In the past 10 years ago, they would have said, oh, kook, you know? Now we're like, oh, really, what does it say? It's a great time in America. While we may be worried and concerned about what's going on, I got to tell you guys, if this hadn't happened, all these people would not have woken up and said to Heritage, we're here. What do we do? So we're here, Heritage. I'm here. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to tell our story. We got more. We're setting up an office next week, and it was donated by people that are CEOs that have been demonized and said, hey, you want an office? Hey, we'll get you computers. Hey, you want some phones? We'll do that. We're going to have organized training. We're going to have information. I'm sitting here talking to somebody that's going to help us get some training materials in so that we can have all kinds of stuff going on. We're going to bring life to this Tea Party movement. We're not going away. We're just getting bigger, and I just ask you to help us by giving us training, giving us material, and we'll give you the people to make it happen. Thank you very much for this opportunity.